Okay, let's unpack this a bit. We're talking about health savings accounts, HSAs, and how strategically using them can fundamentally transform your financial security in retirement, especially when it comes to tackling those inevitable healthcare costs, right?
Right.
We've scoured through a ton of information to bring you the absolute must-knows about this powerful tool.
Right. And at its core, health savings accounts were created back in 2003 with a kind of dual purpose.
Hmm.
First, to empower individuals to manage rising healthcare costs more effectively, and also to encourage more consumer-directed decisions about their own health.
Okay.
But what's truly remarkable, what really sets HSAs apart, is their triple tax advantage.
Triple tax. Okay.
Yeah, think of it like this. Most financial accounts, they're like a garden where you pay tax on the seeds or maybe tax on the fruit, sometimes both. HSAs, they're like this magical garden where the seeds, that's your contributions, are tax deductible.
Uh-huh.
The growth, any investment gains, that's tax-free. And when you harvest the fruit, meaning withdrawals for qualified medical expenses, that's tax-free too.
Wow.
So unlike your traditional IRAs or 401ks, which usually tax withdrawals in retirement as ordinary income, HSAs offer this unique, completely tax-free benefit for a huge chunk of your future spending.
That triple tax advantage sounds almost too good to be true. So for you listening, what does this all mean in a real-world sense?
It means potentially completely tax-free money in retirement. Money specifically earmarked for healthcare, which honestly can be an immense benefit. Given that healthcare costs often become one of the largest expenses as we get older, having a dedicated tax-exempt fund for that could be a genuine game changer. It helps preserve your other retirement savings.
Definitely a game changer. So, how do you even get started with this financial wizardry? What are the core requirements to unlock these benefits? Well, first, you absolutely must be enrolled in a high-deductible health plan, an HDHP. This generally means your health insurance plan has a higher deductible than, say, traditional plans, often in exchange for lower monthly premiums. Makes sense. Second, you cannot be enrolled in Medicare. That's key. And third, you cannot be claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return. For 2024, the contribution limits are set at $4,150 for individual coverage.
And $8,300 for family coverage.
Great.
And here's something really powerful, an accelerant many people overlook. For individuals age 55 and older, there's a catch-up contribution.
Ah, the catch-up.
Exactly, an additional $1,000. And look, this isn't just an extra $1,000. It's a final, pretty significant boost to supercharge your tax-free growth just before retirement. It's often overlooked by people who think, their main saving days are winding down. But it's crucial.
Good point. Beyond just contributing the money, there's some real tax planning savvy you can apply to your HSA, isn't there? Like, contributions made before the tax deadline, April 15th, can actually be designated for the previous tax year. That offers some neat flexibility, right?
Absolutely. Great flexibility for tax planning.
And for those who can swing it, getting your contributions in early in the year, that can really maximize the investment growth potential, letting those dollars work for you longer. Compounding.
Definitely. And never underestimate employer HSA contributions. That's another big one.
Oh, yeah.
These are essentially free money for your future retirement healthcare costs. If you're evaluating job offers or maybe even thinking about the timing of your retirement, you should definitely factor in what your employer might be putting into your HSA. It's a significant benefit and honestly often overlooked.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a little tricky sometimes. The Medicare crossroads. This seems like one of the most critical HSA planning decisions you'll face. So what's the crucial role to remember here?
The crucial rule, the absolute bottom line, is that individuals cannot contribute to HSAs once they're enrolled in any part of Medicare.
Any part.
Any part. And this includes automatic enrollment in Medicare Part A, which happens at age 65 if you're already receiving Social Security benefits. That automatic enrollment is a really key point to remember because it immediately ends your eligibility to contribute new funds. Poof, gone.
Wow. Okay. That sounds like a pretty significant hurdle for people maybe wanting to keep contributing past 65. So if you're someone who wants to continue making those HSA contributions for as long as possible, what are the planning considerations? What are the trade-offs involved?
Well, delaying Medicare enrollment is an option.
Okay.
If you maintain that required HDHP coverage through your employment or maybe through COBRA.
COBRA, right. That's the temporary insurance after leaving a job.
Exactly. But this strategy requires a very, very careful evaluation. You need to be sure your current healthcare coverage is adequate for your needs. And you also have to consider whether you might face potential Medicare late enrollment penalties down the line if you delay too long. There are complexities there.
Right. Penalties are never fun.
And it's also vital to clarify the link with Social Security. We mentioned the auto-enrollment. So to avoid that automatic Medicare Part A enrollment at age 65, and therefore keep your HSA contribution eligibility going, you must delay taking Social Security benefits.
Ah, so delaying Social Security delays Medicare Part A enrollment.
For most people, yes. But look, this is a strategy that really requires an individual financial assessment. You need to see if delaying Social Security makes sense for your specific situation, your whole financial picture.
Makes sense. It's not a one-size-fits-all answer. Now, you mentioned pitfalls. A quick but crucial warning, the testing period rule. This sounds like something that could easily trip people up and cost them money. Can you briefly explain what it is?
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught by this one. Imagine you switch to a high-deductible health plan, say mid-year, and you decide to max out your HSA contribution for the full year.
Okay.
The IRS wants to ensure you're genuinely committed to that HDHP plan for a reasonable period. So the rule is you must maintain that HDHP coverage through December 31st of the entire following year.
The following year, not just the rest of the current year.
The entire following year. So if you switch in July 2024 and max out, you need HDHP coverage all the way through December 31st, 2025. It's designed to prevent people from just briefly joining an HDHP, funding an HSA, and then immediately switching back to a different non-HDHP plan.
Got it. So maintain coverage for about 18 months or more, depending on when you start. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's move from thinking about HSAs merely as a savings account to viewing them as an investment powerhouse for retirement. I've even heard them called a Roth IRA on steroids, specifically for healthcare. What makes them so powerful as an investment vehicle?
Well, many HSA providers, probably most these days, actually offer investment options. They allow you to put your funds into things like mutual funds, ETFs, or other securities, just like in a brokerage account. And for long-term retirement planning, treating HSAs as long-term investment vehicles can dramatically increase their value over decades. Why? Because of that triple tax advantage we talked about. Tax-free growth is huge over time.
Right. So how should people approach investing those HSA funds? Are there different strategies?
Yeah, it's really about balance in your timeline. For expected near-term medical expenses, you probably want a conservative cash management strategy. Many experts recommend keeping maybe 1 to 2 years' worth of your maximum out-of-pocket expenses in cash or cash equivalents. You need that liquidity.
For emergencies, yeah?
Exactly.
Sure.
But beyond that, especially for younger individuals or maybe those who have substantial other resources to cover current medical costs, aggressive growth strategies can be very appropriate. Let that money work hard for you long term.
And there's another unique advantage here, right? Something about RMDs.
Ah, yes, this is a huge one. HSAs have no required minimum distributions, or RMDs, during the account holder's lifetime.
No RMDs, unlike traditional IRAs or 401k.
Exactly. Think of RMDs as the government basically saying, hey, that money in your traditional retirement account, it's time to start taking it out so we can finally tax it.
Right. Usually starts in your 70s.
Right. But not with HSAs. Your funds can continue to grow completely tax-free, sitting in your account for your entire life, as long as they're eventually used for qualified medical expenses. This offers just unparalleled flexibility and compounding potential. It's fantastic.
That's incredible. So for those long-term growth strategies, especially given we know healthcare costs will likely be there in retirement, things like target date funds or balanced portfolios could be good choices.
Yeah, they can be excellent choices. They help provide age-appropriate asset allocation that automatically becomes more conservative over time.
So how do you actually pick the right investment options within your specific HSA? Providers vary, don't they?
They do vary. It really depends largely on your personal risk tolerance and your time horizon. How many years until you expect to need the money? If you have many years, maybe decades, until retirement, a more aggressive allocation, heavier on equities, often makes sense.
More growth potential.
Exactly. Then, as you get closer to retirement, you might gradually shift to more conservative investments, like bonds, to help protect your principal. Many HSA providers offer a good range of options, from simple target date funds, which do the shifting for you, to more complex, self-directed brokerage accounts where you pick everything. The key thing is to be proactive. You need to choose some kind of investment strategy rather than just letting your funds sit there in cash, earning next to nothing. That's leaving money on the table.
Right. Be intentional about it. Okay, we've covered how to build up this incredible tax advantage fund, but the real genius maybe of the HSA comes when it's time to use that money. So what are the smartest ways to tap into these funds in retirement to really maximize their tax-free power?
Okay, yeah, this is where the planning really pays off. The goal here should always be to maximize those tax-free distributions while, carefully preserving your account balance for future healthcare needs. It's a balancing act. When it comes to what's considered a qualified medical expense for those tax-free withdrawals, the list is actually quite extensive.
Like what?
It includes things like Medicare Part B and Part D premiums.
Okay, that's big.
Huge. Medicare Advantage premiums, too. Even employer-sponsored retiree health insurance premiums often qualify. However, there's a crucial note here. Medicare Supplement, or Medigap premiums, are generally not considered qualified expenses. That surprises some people.
Ah, good distinction. Medigap is out. What else?
Beyond premiums, HSAs can also cover long-term care insurance premiums, though there are specified age-based limits on how much you can deduct there. And qualified long-term care services themselves are eligible. Plus, don't forget things like dental, vision.
Oh yeah, dental and vision add up.
They really do. And even over-the-counter medications and medical supplies. Things like bandages, pain relievers, which became qualified again in 2020 after a brief period when they weren't, those are all eligible for tax-free withdrawal.
Okay, that's a broad list. Now, one of the most powerful, almost like secret strategies I hear about is the reimburse yourself method. This sounds like a financial superpower. Can you walk us through it? How does it work in practice?
Financial superpower.
Yeah.
I like that. Kind of is. So the idea is this. You pay your current medical expenses today, maybe dental bills, prescriptions, whatever, out of pocket with non-HSA money.
Okay, so just pay like normal.
Right. But you keep the receipts. Then you allow your HSA funds to stay invested and continue growing tax-free, potentially for years, even decades.
Let the magic of compounding work.
Exactly. Then, much later, maybe in retirement when you need cash flow, you can reimburse yourself from your HSA for those expenses you paid out of pocket years ago, tax-free.
Wow. It's like creating your own personal tax-free rainy day fund that you can tap into for future non-medical needs, technically, using receipts from past medical costs to justify the tax-free withdrawal. That is a super-powered IOU to yourself.
It really is.
But let's be realistic. Is it practical for most people to meticulously track decades of medical receipts for this? What's the practical advice there? Keeping shoeboxes full of receipts doesn't sound appealing.
It absolutely requires diligence. There's no question. The key is maintaining proper documentation of those expenses. You need the receipts, explanation of benefits, medical bills. Digital records help immensely.
Like scanning them or using an app.
Yes, exactly. Apps and digital tools can really help organize this. And crucially, you have to ensure the expenses occurred after your HSA was officially established. You can't reimburse for costs before the account existed. While it might seem daunting, the long-term tax-free growth potential makes it incredibly worthwhile for many people who are organized enough to do it.
Worth the effort if you can manage it. Okay. And what about using the HSA for things that aren't medical expenses?
Right, another important point. After you turn age 65, if you make non-medical withdrawals from your HSA, they are subject to ordinary income tax, just like a traditional IRA or 401k withdrawal.
Okay, so taxed then.
Yes, but, and this is key, they no longer incur the 20% penalty that applies if you take non-qualified withdrawals when you're younger than 65.
So the penalty goes away at 65.
Correct. This means that after 65, for any non-medical expenses, your HSA can function somewhat like a traditional IRA. You pay income tax, but no penalty. But it still maintains its completely tax-free status for qualified medical expenses. So you get the best of both worlds, in a way. It adds another layer of flexibility in retirement.
That is flexible. And this also opens the door to what you might call strategic withdrawal sequencing, right? Like coordinating your HSA distributions with withdrawals from other retirement accounts, maybe taking income from Roth accounts in certain years to keep taxable income low, while using the HSA tax-free for medical stuff.
Exactly. It becomes part of your overall tax strategy in retirement. You can potentially minimize your taxable income throughout your retirement years by carefully choosing which accounts to draw from when. It's all about playing financial chess, optimizing the sequence.
Financial chess. I like that too. Okay, so this really powerful account, this raises an important question, especially with that RMD rule and the growth potential. How do HSAs fit into estate planning? What are their unique benefits there, maybe compared to other accounts?
That's a great question and often overlooked. The treatment for a surviving spouse is actually quite favorable.
How so?
So a surviving spouse can inherit the HSA and basically continue operating it as their own, maintaining all the same tax advantages, the tax-free growth, the tax-free withdrawals for medical expenses. It just rolls over seamlessly.
That's great for a spouse. What about for other beneficiaries, like kids?
For non-spouse beneficiaries, it's different. They receive the HSA funds, but those funds become taxable income to them. in the year they inherit it. However, and this is important, they receive it without that 20% penalty that would apply if the original owner was under 65 and made non-qualified withdrawals. So it's taxable income, but no extra penalty.
Okay, so spouse gets the full benefit, others get taxable income but avoid the penalty.
Correct. And this favorable treatment for spouses, combined with the tax-free growth during the owner's lifetime and the lack of RMDs, it really does make HSAs potentially excellent wealth transfer vehicles, especially to a spouse.
Interesting. It sounds like some individuals might even choose to strategically preserve their HSA as much as possible for their heirs, maybe specifically a spouse, by choosing to use other retirement funds, like a 401k or IRA, for their own current expenses if possible.
That's definitely a sophisticated strategy some people employ, yes. If they have other resources, they might prioritize leaving that super tax-advantaged HSA untouched for as long as possible, potentially for their spouse to inherit.
Fascinating. But, even with all these incredible advantages, there've got to be common HSA mistakes and planning pitfalls, those sort of hitting roadblocks people should be aware of. What are some of the biggest ones you see people making?
Oh, definitely. One of the absolute biggest is simply failing to maximize HSA contributions each year.
Just not putting enough in.
Exactly. Especially missing out on that valuable catch-up contribution for those 55 and older. So much potential tax advantage growth is just left on the table, often because people aren't even aware that catch-up exists or how valuable compounding is.
Missed opportunity. What else?
Another really common mistake is treating the HSA like a checking account. Money goes in, money comes out immediately for every little copay or prescription.
Instead of investing it.
Right, and instead of seeing it as the long-term investment vehicle it can be. If you spend it all right away, you're completely missing out on decades of potential tax-free growth. You're leaving a lot of potential money on the table.
That makes sense. What about record keeping? You mentioned that earlier with the reimbursement strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor record keeping is a huge one. It can really complicate things down the road, especially those future tax-free withdrawals. If you are using that reimburse yourself strategy over many years, if the IRS ever asks, you need proof those withdrawals were for qualified expenses, even if the expense was 20 years ago. You need those receipts, digital or otherwise.
Absolutely critical. And another one we discussed, simple unawareness of that automatic Medicare enrollment at age 65 for Social Security recipients.
Mm-hmm.
This often leads to people inadvertently violating the contribution rules. They keep putting money in after their eligibility is stopped because Medicare Part A automatically kicked in. That can lead to penalties.
Yeah. Got to watch that transition carefully. So it sounds like the bottom line is it's crucial to integrate your HSA strategy with everything else, right? Your broader retirement planning objectives, including how you'll handle Medicare supplements, any long-term care insurance decisions, your overall health care cost budgeting. It all needs to fit together.
Precisely. And it also extends to coordinating with your overall tax planning. You want to maximize the efficiency across all your retirement accounts, your 401k, IRA, Roth accounts, and your HSA. They should work together.
So wrapping this up, what's the core value proposition here?
In summary, I'd say health savings accounts represent perhaps the most tax-advantaged retirement planning vehicle available today, period. They offer truly unique benefits for managing those inevitable healthcare costs while simultaneously building wealth. That combination, the immediate tax deduction, the tax-free growth, and the tax-free withdrawals for medical expenses, it makes them an invaluable tool for your retirement security.
And that's really why it matters, isn't it? Given the, frankly, certainty of healthcare expenses cropping up in retirement and the well-known gap between what Medicare actually covers and your real healthcare costs, HSAs provide both financial protection and, honestly, immense peace of mind for retirees who've planned well.
Couldn't agree more. Peace of mind is a huge part of it.